Welcome, welcome, everyone. Who is ready to feel happy and uplifted? Because for the next 29 minutes, we're going to talk to two of the most amazing, inspiring innovators and builders that have use cases that are real and that are societally beneficial. And I think those are two qualities that should not be underappreciated. I'm going to start with Melanie, who's at the end over here. And you've noticed I've been stickered. I love St. Jude. St. Jude research.
I love St. Jude too. They just
everyone loves St. Jude. You can get a sticker if you're good. Melanie,
we have stickers walking around maybe too.
Melanie is going to explain a bit about her journey as an innovator, but also as St. Jude Children's Research Hospital and what you're doing as an innovator.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks for everyone coming to this session. We appreciate it. I'm Melanie Hannick. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at ALSEC, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I've been there for 16 years, and we've been innovating all along the way in lots of places. So I'll tell you a little bit about St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. It was founded by Danny Thomas 60 years ago, and it was founded to help children with catastrophic diseases like cancer. And it was founded on the principle of no child should die in the dawn of life, and you can be treated regardless of your race, religion, or ability to pay. And innovation was woven into the DNA of the organization right when it started with Danny. Now, I work for ALSEC, so the fundraising and awareness organization that raises money through many blockchain efforts. And I think, our story really probably started about 9 years ago with gamers and streamers, actually. We started to have communities of gamers and streamers who were raising money for St. Jude online and in these really different ways. And 9 years later, we've had 110 countries donate to us, $50 million, and about 33,000 donations.
So I was blown away, by the way, when you told that to me. How many people here knew that the gaming community has donated tens of millions of dollars for St. Jude?
The gaming
That's
community,
amazing.
Which is pretty cool.
Go gamers.
So we're thrilled for the gamers. So in walks blockchain, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we started toying with just blockchain payments, right? Because people were starting to give us mostly Bitcoin at the time, some Ethereum, and just having and receiving some of those payments. And we were also toying with the idea, like people can come and they can buy bricks on campus, and you can actually get a brick, and it's literally in the walkways on campus. And we were trying to figure out digital ways that we could use the blockchain to say, no, there's this verifiable, smart contract of your brick, right? And so we worked on some prototypes of how that might work out. We actually have the developer and genius architect and engineer here who came up with that in the room. But so that's how we got started.
Wonderful. Well, look, we're going to talk a little bit more about what St. Jude is doing, but if you think about a children's hospital that deals with some of the most tragic and just awful scenarios, and yet they're figuring out ways to bring community from all walks of life and use tech tools, that's amazing. I'm going to go to Danelle now. She needs no introduction, but I want Danelle to actually highlight and give us an update on the amazing things that Stellar Development Foundation, and also thank you for the support of Consensus here, but what Stellar is doing on the humanitarian and also development front.
Yep. Thank you so much. So Danelle Dixon, CEO and Executive Director of the Stellar Development Foundation. We are lucky enough to be able to be the support system for lots of really great folks out there who are building. The one that Sandra just mentioned that we wanted to highlight today is the work that we've done to support the UNHCR in delivering aid into Ukraine. So this started because we had actually already had a relationship with the Ukrainian government. They were working on really moving to a cashless society. This is pre-war. And they had a lot of folks there are very tech savvy. Smartphones sort of are everywhere. And Zelensky really wanted to move the country to that. And so when the war started, we had all been working a lot with folks in Ukraine and the Ukrainian government, and they were building, we were also doing a pilot program where they were building the digital hryvnia on the network. And so we thought, what can we do? We're not experts in humanitarian aid. We're experts in payments. And so part of the thing that we put together was how can we take that expertise and work with those that are experts in humanitarian aid and see if there's a fit. Because one of the things you don't ever want to do is force the use of blockchain and make blockchain a thing just because it's blockchain. We wanted to actually solve some problems. What we learned from the UNHCR and from other aid organizations, and now we work with many, is that delivering humanitarian aid is different. If you're working in a cash system, delivering cash is really challenging sometimes because it creates safety concerns for the individuals who are collecting the cash from the sites. There's a lot of fraud in the system. And what's the best thing to solve for fraud, despite what some people say, but blockchain. And so these actually are really good solutions around that. And so we thought, okay, we have this great relationship with MoneyGram where they have the cash, you can cash out or cash in on the edge. And those banks and those relationships, as well as the banking relationships, were working very well in Ukraine despite the war. So we built this bulk uploading tool, which is called the SDP, Stellar Disbursement Platform, but really it's just a bulk uploading tool where you can put in all of the information and upload thousands of transactions at once, and then you can have the aid delivered to the individuals in Ukraine in literally 2 minutes. From start to finish, meaning they have to download a wallet, and so they get a text message from the UNHCR that says, hey, you're eligible to receive aid, and then they download the wallet, and the aid is actually in their wallet when they receive it. They can then cash out at MoneyGram. MoneyGram is active and live in Ukraine, or they can choose to send it to their bank account, or they can choose to just hold the assets and not do anything with it at the moment until they feel safe to go out to do any of those things. So it's a pretty great system. It brings a lot of dignity into a situation when they sort of feel these are the internally displaced persons who are the most in need and frankly probably feel like they have no control, and it allows that. So there's a lot more momentum in terms of that, but using what is an amazing system to be able to deliver this to the individuals in that short period of time, creating transparency, creating the opportunity for it to be done quickly. And we use Stellar USDC, so it's stable asset that they receive. So all those things create a really nice platform. And we love the work that we're doing there.
Amazing. And it is working and live. Danelle, I'm going to ask you one more follow-up question related to this. You've done it in Ukraine. How do you think this then rolls out to potentially other jurisdictions?
It's going to be, and I think it's not just the UNHCR, it's other organizations that we're working with. And it's not only amazing for aid, it's also for aid organizations. They have a lot of really interesting structures. They don't always have employees. They actually have folks that are on the ground in other countries that they can't employ because it could be that the governments in those countries don't want them to employ people. They could be adverse sometimes to the government. It just depends on the government and the situation. And so using this same disbursement platform and the same structure, you can actually do a payroll type payment into these individuals in those countries. So it's a pretty awesome thing to be able to leverage it. We see that it's really great for countries where obviously there has to be electricity. Otherwise, a lot of this stuff is hard. And so it's not a fail-safe for everywhere. And then smartphones, but not everywhere. You can also deploy this on feature phones if the wallets worked with that. But we see it's going to come out in probably 2 or 3 more countries in the next few months.
So I just want to highlight a point here that Danelle's made about the development side of the world, the NGOs. People keep looking to private sector and like the banks and sort of the FIs, and they're like, oh, well, that's where the innovation is. But look at what's going on with the NGOs, because they are amazing about adopting tech. And frankly, when you've got to deliver emergency services or funds in a disaster scenario to millions of people, what is the most secure, fastest way to do that? And frankly, it doesn't matter whether it's crypto or mobile phone credits or fiat. It is what can you deliver that quickly to desperate in need. So Melanie, I want to ask you about St. Jude has a long history of innovation. You've clearly started accepting crypto donations, and that's worked out well. You've now dabbled into, I think, NFTs, and you're going to evolve that. What could this community do for you to help you do more?
Well, thanks for asking that question, and it's really cool stuff that you have going on too, Danelle. Like that's amazing to like continue the use cases and progress. Really for us, we've been supported by communities since the founding of the institution. And for us within the crypto space, over the last 4 years, we've actually received about $4.5 million from crypto communities.
Go crypto folks!
Yeah, crypto communities donating to us. Some of it is individual donations from people, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, other kinds of crypto. But a lot of it is actually the actual communities. So we have the Art Blocks has accepted us as one of their charities and donated NFT revenues to us and artist credits. We've also received funds from Sappy Seals, Invisible Friends, and Rafik Anandal. Like last year, there was a trip to outer space that we were part of. It was called Inspiration 4, where it was the first all-civilian mission to outer space. One of our patients was on that spacecraft, and it was billionaire Jared Isaacman, who came to us and said, hey, I've got this idea, let's raise some money and go to outer space. So we did that, and as part of the space mission, they actually captured the mission in NFT and sold that. And so that was a big part of money that was raised, as well as just patches and other NFTs that you could buy. So we've been supported gratefully, and we're very thankful for communities that have supported us. And if you are in one of those, thank you so much for everything that you've done. It's just a long history of millions of people, working to support the mission in whatever way they can, even if it's donating $1.
That is so cool. And if any of you guys have groups and, social groups that you're part of, like, come up with something creative and support St. Jude. It's awesome. Danelle, going back to you. Stellar is obviously a very well-known protocol, and you are building some really amazing things. Why focus on the humanitarian side? Why focus on these use cases when you could be doing lots of other things?
Well, the good news is we're doing a lot of other things, but the reason why my favorite use case actually for, I love payments. Payments, I always say, is not super sexy to most people, and you're not going to see people like plastering things about payments as you are about 23% returns. But the thing about payments that's super cool is it's solving a problem that real humans need to have solved, because it's so expensive in the traditional market to make payments. And so for me, this is actually just that extension in the real way, in the most needed, most challenging case, to be able to solve that payments challenge. And so in this scenario, I actually had one of those moments where I was like, duh, we should have been doing this for a long time, because we were already hyper-focused on payments. We have been. We were already hyper-focused on and off ramps. And so when all this happened in Ukraine, and it's not like Ukraine is any different from any other country where there's these war and this trauma and this challenge, we should have been doing this before, because we actually had the tools to for a really long time. And so now I'm just so excited that we can actually be a part of it, doing what we know how to do, which again is the tech side, and and partnering with those who actually are so amazing at the humanitarian aid side, recognizing where our strengths are and helping them to solve a challenge they have, creating just one more tool in their toolbox, because it's not going to solve everything, but it's going to solve some, is the best. So for me, it's just an extension of payments. The payroll piece is also equally important, because it actually delivers the same. I know it isn't humanitarian aid, but think about how important it is for people all over the world to receive their money so they can actually feed their family. And it's not simple if you're an individual worker in a different country who maybe is working for an American company, for example, to get that value to you. It's really hard. And so I know that some of us don't understand that because we're not in that scenario, but that is a form of aid to those individuals to make this a lot more streamlined to them than it is for them to have to wait, whatever, T+4 to be able to get their money, or to have to take 8 to 10% off of it. So this is the same kind of thing. Payments are crucial. Cross-border, not solved. but it is solved if you use blockchain and you partner with traditional finance. Like, that's the most amazing thing here, is when you put and you enhance the financial networks that exist, which are the TradFi networks, with blockchain, the two go together exceptionally well, and it creates a really nice solution.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think this sort of bringing Web 2, Web 3 worlds together and then figuring out how to scale is really kind of the next level thinking that we need to do. So when you think about scaling, what ingredients do you still need to really have this turbocharged?
For the humanitarian aid case, there's not much more. We just need to have as many humanitarian aid organizations out there who want to be part of it. Like, the solution is there and available. Certainly there are going to be wallets in individual regions. The amazing thing about working with the UNHCR, one of the things I wanted to mention about NGOs actually being creative, is that we started working with the UNHCR, I think in March of last year, and the solution was in the market by December. And that's remarkable. Everybody always gives them grief for how long it takes, but that kind of innovation is actually pretty amazing that they were able to pull that together so quickly. So the scaling piece is that more and more aid organizations can do this. Frankly, Stellar works exceptionally well because we have the on and off ramps, but hopefully other organizations are going to have this too on other networks, because I think, again, this is like a solution that shouldn't be network centric. It's actually most important that the individuals get what they need. So I think that we need wallets in certain regions. One of the things that the UNHCR really focused on is making sure that the wallet that received the aid on the end wasn't a wallet that was necessarily like crypto focused. What that means is you're not going to like give them Stellar USDC and be like, oh, hey, even all these other crypto assets you can go buy, you want to do that? That would make no sense, right? So really like turning the flags off on the wallet to make it like it's a receive side wallet. So you receive it and then you can cash out, you can do things, you can choose what you're doing, whether you hold or not, but that we're not encouraging them to take that next step yet. It doesn't mean that that's not part of their journey, but at this point it wasn't. So being really thoughtful about the wallets that are partnering with aid organizations, whether they have it themselves, is another issue for scaling. And frankly, I think choosing the countries appropriately and also making sure the wallets are, one of the things we learned is that you need to have the localization make sense for the region. So think about countries where you have several last names or some middle names that are part of their credentials. When they go in to pick up their aid, it needs to match what they've registered for. So things, again, that are just like details, but important details because you're dealing with humans on the other end of it. So lots to do, but really it's just getting more and more out there.
If you are an NGO and you're not collaborating, please reach out.
Yes, please.
Melanie, on your side, what's next in store?
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, a few things. We did announce just generally that, we're expanding the mission of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital by $12.9 billion. We already have an international mission. We work with hospitals all across the globe and foundations also all across the globe. So I think for us, really, it's like continuing to expand ways that either communities can rally around the mission to raise money. But what I'd also add is, I think it just has to be easier for many people to participate. Like, to participate in the wallet, like it's still not like native on like a desk, like on a phone, like really simple and easy to use and easy to understand and easy to get things in. So, some of this work that you're talking about, I'd love to see it scale more across the NGO space and all charities, because I think that it is a little bit of a barrier now for doing more good. But for us, like our mission is already global and has been for 25 years. Yep.
Amazing. And from a GBBC Giving standpoint, which is our charitable arm, I have to say we're working with the UN World Food Program, and the innovation that they're doing through their Innovation Accelerator is also just as mind-blowing. So for any of you out there who've not seen what's going on at the NGO level, take a look, because they're really the innovators. And we're talking about hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of flow that have already gone through the system using whatever medium it is that it takes to deliver the most quickly, safely, efficiently. And another data point, disaster relief is increasingly moving from delivering goods. Now, sometimes disaster relief, they have to deliver food. They have to deliver the actual stuff. But where they do not have to, and Oxfam has talked about this a lot, they will deliver e-money or money. And what does that mean? Well, it might be crypto. It might be mobile phone credits. It's whatever the localized place needs to get it done quickly. And I think, Danelle, you've raised that point. How are you finding governments and your interactions on that level?
Yeah, that's a really important point. One of the things you have to be really careful about when you're thinking about a government that's already working through its own challenges is you don't want to come in and disrupt their, like for example, prior to the war, Zelensky was really focused on the strength of the hryvnia. So bringing in US dollars into that country, you don't want to do that without the permission and the respect from the government, because otherwise it sort of disrupts their whole process. So we actually spend a lot of time with central banks in lots of regions and regions that we're focused on for that reason, to make sure that they understand that this could be an opportunity for them. You could think about not just the dollar as being the currency. It happens to be one that's easily leverageable right now with USDC on Stellar and with EuroC coming in terms of that. But you can also think there's a lot of individual assets that could be out there that could be leveraged if they were local banks in those regions that do it. So it's being respectful of what the governments are focused on. You don't want to just like, yeah, we're delivering aid, so who cares, we're going to do it our way. You can't do that. You really have to like work with them to make that better. And again, like from our standpoint, so we do that kind of homework on our own because we spend a lot of time in advocacy and policy situations, but the aid organizations have a lot of impact on that too, because they're not going to do anything that's going to be disruptive to the local governments as well. So I think that that's an important piece of it. But there's just so much opportunity if you think about where we can go with the technology. And one of the things that we have to be really good at on the developer side and on the technical side is not telling them what they need, but listening to what it is that they might need. And so there are a lot of solutions that we can go and say, you should do it this way. But the truth is, remember where your expertise sits. So we're constantly reminded that that is not our role, but we need to listen to what others who know this space better than we do can tell us. And it's sort of the same is true from the standpoint of understanding like how maybe like in this situation, maybe for an MVP, like 60% is good enough, but maybe not when you're dealing with internally displaced people. So we really got pushed by the UNHCR to make sure that this wasn't just 60% good, that it was, you know, as close to 99% good as you could get it. So we tested a ton. We still do. We test all the time with respect to the solution. More of the rail, if you think about the rail being from start from the Circle account and then for full deployment through the tool itself, the SDP, to the wallet, and then to the cash off-ramp. So you want to test that constantly. So we're testing in every region. We have Uber testers everywhere doing that just to make sure that the solution is solving the problems locally. You also need to remember that like the one thing that you can't control for are humans. And so if you walked into a MoneyGram location and you're like, oh, hey, I want to get my crypto out, they're going to be like, oh, no, we don't do that here. Because agents, they're not, like, that's not their thing. The way that we've worked this solution with MoneyGram is that you literally walk in with your reference number. It's super simple. For them, it should be just a normal transaction. But sometimes human error in like providing too much information or asking too many questions like sets a lot of alarm bells off. So we need to work through those bugs too. So the testing really helps us to solve for where these things are at.
That's really great, and you make a very valid point. The more familiar something looks, even if it's new, the less likely you're going to have people freaking out, so good.
That's a good point.
Melanie, when you think about St. Jude and the myriad of communities that you have, how do you bring young people in, and what does that look like from an innovation standpoint as well?
Yeah, in our organization, even kids, even preschoolers, can participate with the mission in a program called Trikeathon, where it's actually a bike safety program in preschools, but they can participate that way, or you can do mathathon. We have leadership programs for high schoolers and collegiate, as well as then into like gaming. So we kind of have things for anyone of all ages who might want to participate with the mission. Then you can imagine as you get older, lots of ways you can help to support the mission, even a bequest and leaving us in your will. So we've got lots of ways people can participate with us. What I would say in some of our technology, instead of an MVP, we call it an MLP, which is minimum lovable product. So, so you get to a point where, yes, it might be working, but it's lovable enough where it meets, the use case needs. So I would comment on that.
Heard it here, minimum lovable product.
There you go, MLP.
Fantastic. We've got only a few minutes left as we draw to a close. We'll do kind of a semi-lightning round. You can have more than a few minutes. Danelle, tell me, when you think about 2023 and beyond, if you are able to build out, as you are, what does that future world look like in terms of how do things fit in? How do things work? How do you actually help more and more people?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that's really important, we're going to open source the Stellar Disbursement tool, so the SDP, Stellar Disbursement platform, I think that's the right word, so that everyone can use it, and it's not just going to be something you need to like leverage from us specifically. Hopefully that also can get worked out with others, even on other networks, to be able to leverage. The other part is really bringing those wallets. Not many aid organizations want to host a wallet. Understandably, they have lots going on their side. And there's also another piece of it where that tool, that SDP, we need to have organizations that are going to host that tool for aid organizations as well, because not all of them have an engineering team that can do that for them. So in order to really like push this out, like those are the kinds of things we want to see. We've actually laid some of the foundation working with third parties to be able to do some of this. And then of course, I just want to see tons of wallets out there that are thinking through like an aid case, but also their own case. Like you want wallets to have the ability to generate revenue and to be really important in people's lives, but then it'd be really great if you can turn some flags off and also allow it to sometimes be used for the aid use case. So those are the kinds of things like that we look at, but mostly this is not an area that we're like, oh, it's really good for us this year and then next year we're going to turn to something else. Like this is actually really, really deeply connected to our mission. Our mission is creating equitable access to the global financial system. What that means is like delivering tools that allow as many people as possible to have the ability to have access to things that are going to help them solve problems that are connected to the financial system. And so for us, like this is just like one awesome solution that we can do that with. But it can be used in so many different ways by so many different companies. And one of the things that I like to say is that I'm super good at like organizing things and like getting things done and moving things forward. I am not creative, but all of you guys out there are super creative and can come up with even better ideas than what we have. And so all of us together can just bring these tools that can solve these challenges after listening to understand the challenge is part of what I think that 2023, 2024, 2025, but this is only going to get larger because I think that it just shows like the value and beauty of what blockchain technology can do.
Absolutely, and for anyone who's interested in working on this side of the fence, development side, there's tons to do, and NGOs need help, so that's fantastic. Over to you, Melanie, for the last words.
Yes, you know, I'd like to see some of the things that happen in traditional giving happen in this space. So for example, like add-on at a checkout is something that you can do in a traditional space. Roundups is something that can happen in a traditional space. Like, you know, easy automated giving can happen in traditional space, whether it's like automated like ACH giving or other ways you can connect traditional bank accounts into this space. I'd like to see it happen across the board where it was really automatic to give back to a charity, select your charity of choice across the board. I mean, I'd love to see that really come to fruition for all charities. So that's, you know, my wish.
Does anybody know a browser over there called Brave that would work really well with this kind of thing?
Brave, and I know Brave browser. I think we did some things with y'all. Yeah, and I mean, if you want to sort of support our mission, of course, you can donate. We have a booth here. We've had a lot of people come by. You can join us in social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, whatever it is. So that's how you can help us.
Fantastic. Well, if you've learned anything today, hopefully you've learned that the humanitarian development, NGO side of the fence is truly innovating. They do not have the hang-ups that some others do about what tech or what types of digital tools you use. They want to actually solve for real problems, which is to help people as quickly as possible and with the right sets of security and efficiency and cost effectiveness. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us. And if you have questions for the ladies here, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Sandra.
Thank you.
Everyone.